Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Ágora's interview. My name is Carolina Vega, and I'm very pleasant of present you today our special guest, Professor Chahan Yeretzian, who is a professor associated to the Zúrich University of Applied Science as a professor for analytical chemistry, bioanalytical chemistry, and diagnostics, and who is head of the Coffee Excellence Center as well as the head of the analytical technologies. Professor Shahans has almost 30 years of experience in working with coffee. Initially, he has 12 years at Nestlé and since 2808 in the show. In addition to having published more than 200 papers, he has created several very successful postgraduate education programs on coffee. In addition, Professor Chahan is currently working as a research partner with CESURCAFÉ with two regalias projects, and in this moment, he is our visitor in Colombia for our workshop in CESURCAFÉ. If you don't know, CESURCAFÉ is a group that belongs to agroindustry group in la Universidad Surcolombiana. And now we are going to share some information with our academic community. So welcome, Professor. Thank you so much for this invitation. And dear Professor, I want to first ask if you can tell us how you got known CESURCAFÉ at first, because Zurich is very far from here. And maybe we can be kind of curious because I don't know, how did you get information about our group of investigation?
And very nice and very nice visit. So why and how did I get in touch with CESURCAFÉ? It actually dates back to 2016 when Nelson Gutierrez organized a conference here, and he invited me at the time. I'm not sure how he got my name, but he invited me to give a talk. And initially I wanted to come, but then I couldn't come, and then I asked a collaborator of me to come. And in 2016, Dr. Sebastian Obitz came and gave a presentation here at this. And from that time on, we knew each other. And about the same time, I was preparing a project funded by a Swiss organization where we wanted to study two different Latin American countries in coffee production. And so we decided to work with Bolivia and Colombia. And since we knew Professor Gutierrez already, and we realized that he has such a huge expertise in coffee here, we contacted him. And so we decided to have him as our local university partner for this project, together with partners in Bolivia. And so that started in 2017, and we are since then in very good relationship, and we have a lot of exchanges. But that's how we got in contact.
2016 is a very time ago, and how many times have you come to Colombia since that time? That was the first time, I guess.
Yes, that was the first time. Since then, not only me, but other people from my group came, I would say 5, 6, perhaps 6 times. Myself, I've come 3 times.
Okay.
But Sebastian Obitz from my group came probably 5 times since then. And we have also a lot of other exchange, by other media. And so, yeah, we have been in close contact since then.
So, how did you like the coffee? Strong, soft?
Yeah, it has evolved. When I started to drink coffee as a kid, I was basically somebody drinking a lot of instant coffee.
Okay.
And then I started to enjoy more and more espresso beverages, long milk-based beverages. And then when I started to join the specialty coffee movement, I was very closely related to I'm still today. I have been on the board of directors of the SCA, Specialty Coffee Association. I really went very deep into espresso coffee, of course. But today I drink a lot filter coffee, hand brewed, very, very high quality freshly roasted coffee. So today I'm a filter and espresso drinker.
And today, what are those characteristics that you are looking for into a beverage, into the coffee?
Yes.
What do you prefer in these days?
So if I drink espresso,
Uh-huh.
I consider myself more a traditionalist. So I like a nice roasty note, perhaps even a little bit chocolatey, a little bit sweeter notes if you can find it, and not so much light roasted espressos, so not so much fruity espressos. Whereas if I drink a filter coffee, I look for a clean taste, and I look for freshness in the taste. And there I like a lot fruity notes, acidic notes, because the whole beverage is more diluted, so I can much better distinguish and enjoy all these fine nuances. Whereas in the espresso, I do not enjoy too much complexity, and I'm more like a little bit more traditionalist there.
Well, that makes me wonder something, and is that in the Huila, for example,
Yeah.
coffees are very fruity, very soft,
Yes.
and they have very high density, but also they are very acidity, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what is the perspective or the projection of the Huila coffees to Europe or to the world, in your opinion? And
Yes.
principally talking more about trade market.
Yes. So these are characteristics of a high quality coffee. So today we are looking for exactly these attributes: is fruity note, is fresh acidity, and but that's when you evaluate the green coffee in a cupping. When you transform that into a beverage, then if you go a little bit darker roast, you can have very clean roasty note. You still feel a bit of the fruity notes, but they are weak if you go into an espresso. And so I think from a flavor profile, the coffees here are very well positioned for the future. They have I would say, not too high complexity, but a reasonable complexity to please a larger audience worldwide and still be positioned on the specialty segment. So, and since I'm here now since 2 days, in fact, we're drinking a lot of filter coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So the coffee from Huila is very well positioned to very good filter coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It can also go into espresso, but I think the espresso, you can always have a good espresso by just roasting a little bit darker. But doing a good filter coffee is more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the coffee from here has many characteristics that are typically well positioning the coffee for the future.
And well, continue deeping into that. When someone tells you that maybe doesn't like coffee, what do you think that what could happen? It's only preferences, or maybe it can be related with the preparation. What do you think about?
Yeah. So there are different type of reasons why people don't say they don't like coffee. They might not like the taste, that's possible. This could also be related to bad experiences, because sometimes, particularly espresso, if it's not well prepared, it just doesn't taste good. So people might just have had a lot of bad experiences and never experienced the really good coffee. So an option would be to try to offer some options, would you like that coffee? Would you like that coffee? To find a little bit the preference of the persons. Try the filter coffee. If it's more a tea drinker, he might then love the filter coffee. And perhaps it's just because of many bad experiences, because it's very easy to prepare a coffee in a non-professional way and then push people away. So try to show what a good coffee could be. It doesn't mean that this person then will like. And then there are also people who are not coffee drinkers for ideological or for kind of reasons, because people believe coffee is unhealthy, and so they are avoiding coffee for health reasons,
Mm-hmm.
So and this is more. This is today. It's easier a little bit to explain to these people that all this fear of unhealthy coffee, that this is no more really the fact. We have today a lot of data that show that coffee is rather a healthy beverage, but there is a part of the community that they don't drink more than 1 cup because it's unhealthy. So yeah, these are the major reasons. The taste, people might dislike, so you can actually try to look whether we can show them a good coffee, or it's the health perspective. They are avoiding the coffee, and there are some people who really don't support coffee. Like 1-2 cups, they get very nervous, they don't sleep. So it's very individual, and but you can try to talk if you want, but at the end of the day, not everybody has to drink coffee.
Okay, Professor, I have to make in this moment an institutional break, and we will continue. Meanwhile, we can hear some opinions about the university and the opinion of the people in our university. We'll come back. Welcome back to Entrevistas Ágora, and we continue with Professor Chahan Yeretzian. And now we are going to talk about a controversial topic that is about your recent research, and it's related with the cell culture coffee, right? So what do you want to tell us about that? It's very controversial, right?
It is a new field. In a way, as a scientist, of course, it's a huge challenge. And so our research in general is much more traditional. We do a lot of research on coffee machines, on packaging, on roasters, roasting, and all of fermentation. So since now nearly 15, 20 years, we have been working in all this era. But there has, of course, been, particularly in the last few years, a lot of discussion about the sustainability aspect of coffee, about the environmental impact of coffee cultivation, and about farming. And at the same time, there's also this discussion going on about the huge consumption of coffee. Today, we are consuming such a huge amount of coffee that producing this amount of coffee is getting nearly impossible in the future, because we are seeing that people continue systematically to consume more and more and more. It's a very robust business with a constantly increasing consumption. On the production side, we really have a problem. We have the problem that if we want to produce in the same amount coffee, that we would need to start to use new land. We have the challenge of climate change, and we have all these issues of using pesticides and fertilizers. So the people are now discussing, are there alternatives? Are there alternatives to farm-grown coffee? And so we as scientists, but also as a startup at the company, we're looking at alternative ways to produce coffee, not at all to eliminate the farm-grown coffee, but is to create a small portion, a small alternative to eventually fill part of the gap if we have that. The objective in the long term is, of course, to allow for the people who work on the farm not to focus only and exclusively on yield, but rather on an environment that is ecologically sound and healthy. So essentially to keep also plants at the farm, so to have like a CO2 balance, the farm can consume CO2 as well as produce CO2. So it is to relieve the farm people from constantly trying to produce more and more to fit the demand. And so it's not at all a substitution of farming, but a little bit to closing the gap that we are seeing happening due to climate change, but also to the huge consumption. I mean, we drink so much coffee, it's kind of incredible how much we drink coffee worldwide. If you imagine China starting to drink as much coffee as we do in Europe, we would not be able to produce that coffee. It's totally impossible without total deforestation of the Amazonas. So we are looking a little bit long term for alternative ways to produce coffee in order not to put too much pressure on the farm-grown coffee.
Okay, but I find maybe that there is a misunderstood around the topic, right? Because that will be need some technologies that are not too easy to get, right? for example,
Yes.
farmers, how could they get that kind of technology to compete with their production in the farm against this production of self-cultured coffee? I mean,
Yes.
it can be maybe they can be perjudicate with this technology, or what do you think about?
So the idea is not that the farmer now starts to produce cell-grown coffee. The farmer will focus on farm-grown coffee, and there
Okay.
will be always a lot of demand for farm. That will be the coffee people drink. You can also see there's other alternatives. There's not just farm-grown. Today we have all kind of surrogates, people who drink coffees that are made of plants that have nothing to do with coffee. This is also an alternative to the farm-grown traditional coffee, you know. So we have that since 200 years. People drink other things just to compensate for the lack of coffee, or because they can't pay for it.
Okay.
Not everybody can pay. So I don't think that this is something that the farmers will do, except highly sophisticated farmers, you know, because it requires some kind of a factory, you know. But there will be ample space for the farming. So the cell cultivated coffee is basically you take a cell, and in a lab you produce a mass that is like a powder, that is like green coffee powder. Then you roast it, and that happens all in a laboratory environment, kind of. And you can do it here in origin countries. We can do it everywhere.
Okay. In this moment, you are working with us into projects of regalias with
Yeah.
CESURCAFÉ. What's your opinion about our investigation group, about CESURCAFÉ, the growing of the group? Because we started since the beginning, I mean, with so few stops and equipment, this is growing. What do you think about it? Of the science of the coffee in Colombia?
Yes.
What's your opinion?
So when I compare to the first time I came to today, when I'm here this time, it has a huge improvement, huge changes. It has become a real center of research of coffee with a lot of expertise. It's not just Nelson himself. He has a lot of people around him, very passionate. And what surprised me also, many people I saw 7 years ago, they are still here. So they like it, you know, they like what they do, so they are loyal to the subject. So I think that the center here is doing a big service to the Colombian coffee quality development, and they are doing very important research for the future of the quality in Colombia. So this is, of course, the focus also of our research. The focus will remain improving the quality while maintaining a sustainable farming procedures. So the key areas, as I would say, is of course improving the quality is one, and the second is developing new routes to use any type of side products also. So because when you take a fruit and you process it into a cup of coffee, you're actually using 3-4% of the fruit only in the cup. You have so many side products that go away, you know, at the cascara level as well as the spent ground in many places. So you are actually not using for your product about 95 to 98%. And I think one of the major challenges of the future is to find efficient and upscaled ways to use this, not just as burning stuff, you know, but to make food out of it, to make something of higher value. So I think these are the two major challenges: the side product, upscaling side product, and improving the quality as well as farm management.
Okay. And something more about the trending and coffee trend
Yeah.
in the world or in Europe, as you prefer. So you were telling me that you even have evolved in your taste. At the first, you liked another kind of coffee. Today, you like more the filtered coffee. You see the same tendency in people in the world? I mean, you see that maybe there is an increase in the tendency for specialty coffees preferences, or maybe it's the same. People is just lacking this information. They don't care and they just want to have any consumption, but it must be coffee. I don't know. What do you see about this
Yes.
world tendency?
So first of all, what I see is a fundamental change in the education of the people who work in coffee. When I started like 20 years ago, people just hardly knew the difference between Arabica or Robusta. Today, discussions we have with any professional, barista, roaster, is at a totally different level. The level of education of the people working in coffee is huge today, and it's going to increase. So education is a fundamental trend, and people are passionate about education today. So I think that will make the huge difference, because these educated people will be the innovator of the future, and will be the people who will move the whole industry in a new direction in terms of quality, new beverages, and better consumer insight. So one other aspect is, I would say, is better understanding the consumer. The coffee industry has been often a field that has been driven by expert. People have always tried, especially coffee movement has always been expert in the sense that they had an opinion what good coffee is, and they have tried to make that, and not spoken enough with the mass. And so we will probably produce more coffee with much deeper insight to consumer science, and have more coffee. But coffee consumption will increase. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you so much for watching this TV program. And we want that you see our program in a next time. I want to invite you especially to visit our social media of CESURCAFÉ. In Instagram and in Facebook, you can find information about us, and of course about Professor Chahan Yeretzian, leader of the Coffee Excellence Center in Zúrich, in the University of Zúrich. And have a nice rest of the day.